Hello, I am Bentham, and today we're playing Factorio. So in the previous episode, we added many new production lines. We started the production of blue science and all sorts of things like that. And what that means is that today's episode is all about trying to sort out raw materials because we're not getting enough, and it's causing problems. Things at the beginning of the production line are being produced fine, and then things at the end aren't because none of the materials are even getting to them sometimes. So, in the, one of the first things I'm doing is getting some faster conveyor belts, because I realised that because the ore is flowing along one side of that particular bit of the conveyor belt, it's not quite getting along as fast as it could do, and that's limiting how much ore gets to the furnaces. So I go and grab a ton of cogs, because you need cogs to make them, and I'm lazy and I can't be bothered making the cogs myself. And so we set all that up. And that increases the flow of the iron, and because it gets to the splitter at that point, it gets split between the two things and then doesn't have to flow quite as fast to get through. So what we then do is we run over to our... well, I don't know what we do now, because the entire episode is really wandering around looking at production and realising that production needs are not being met by the raw materials, and then running out and trying to fix that somewhere. So, because we've now got enough of a supply of ore to our furnaces, we can put more furnaces in to consume a higher rate of ore. So I start setting up some smelting on the other side of the conveyor belt and hook that up to the system. And the way I've done it is this cool feature that I found with splitters, where if you feed things into both sides of the splitter, it will then split those evenly between the two output sides, and what that means is that you can even out two supplies. So if you're getting two supplies of the same thing from different places, and in one case the supply is more than the other, and then you want it to go to two places that get an equal supply, then you can hook them up like that and it will evenly spread it out for you, which is quite convenient. So going over to the oil things, I noticed that we have a lot of spare light oil, and in fact it's nearly filled up the tanks, and we still have a big need for petroleum gas, so I get a new chemical plant up to turn the light oil into petroleum gas, and I expect I'll need a couple more of these, because in another playthrough I've got that, well, in that particular one I have two refineries constantly producing the oil derivatives, and in that one I have one factory turning heavy oil into light oil, and then four turning light oil into petroleum gas, and then occasionally I might switch one or two of them off to balance things out. Plus we only have one refinery working here, and so it's not that much of a... well, we don't need quite that much, but still it's... at the moment the light oil is filling up quite a bit, so I noticed that a lot of these coal chests are getting full. You don't realise how much ore you actually get from a deposit until you just store it in chests rather than actually consuming it. It shows that, the ridiculous amount of iron and copper that I've consumed over time. So anyway, I decided to do a bit of an upgrade to our accumulator system. So I take out all these little electric poles and I put in some substations, power substations, and what they allow you to do is get a lot more accumulators into a smaller space. So all I need is 3 of them, and they replace dozens of the small electric poles. And what I then do is, now that we have a higher space covered by the substations, I can get more accumulators in. So I start producing a bunch more and sorting them out. A bit of science gets done in the meantime, and so I fill out all this bit. In order to fill out the last bit, I have to move that big electricity pylon. And I'll probably need to move it again, because eventually we'll be adding more substations and more accumulators to continue to expand our power generation and storage and so on. In my other file, I think it's up to 6 substations surrounded by accumulators. And of course that's where everything is fully fitted with effectivity modules. That is the thing with using solar power almost entirely. You need a lot of solar panels and a lot of accumulators to make the whole system work. Whereas when it comes to steam engines, it's not so big. So you can see that I sort of messed up because I introduced the accumulators when we were having a power shortage, and what's happened now is they all ran out of power before the sun rose, but it wasn't that long before, so quickly the solar panels picked up the slack and sorted out the problems. And then now that we've increased the solar panel capacities, you saw back there, just by a bit, or have we yet? I'm losing track of what we're doing here, as often happens in this series where everything is at 2 times speed. My brain does not go at not 4 times speed. My brain doesn't go at 4 times speed. So you can see we're setting up some more copper production because we're having a shortage of that, just like we're having a shortage of everything right now, iron and steel and all that. And I increased the furnace capacity here. I think at the moment we have, I think, 7 furnaces producing the copper constantly. Really, that's not enough. No, it's clearly not enough. It's a lot less than our iron production, and the thing is, now that we have circuit production going, you need copper as much as you need iron. Early on in the game, iron is the really important thing, and copper is really minor, but once you get circuits going, you need huge amounts of copper for all the wire and so on. So I noticed that the iron production was down a bit, and I run off to the outpost and find out that it's because 2 of the mines are out. And what that means is that we now need to further expand our production beyond that particular deposit. So I go to the next deposit along, which is conveniently right next to it, and start setting up some walls around there. And once we've got this little defensive line going on our outpost, we'll start. We'll clear all the trees inside just to give us some room to put all the mining drills in that we will eventually put in, and then I go and hook it up to the power because, well, it was at the time it was because it was really dark and I was fed up with not being able to see anything, but then by the time I got it hooked up, the sun had risen, so it wasn't important anymore. So I set up some mining drills, and it turns out that I positioned that electric pole in the complete wrong place, but whatever, we'll just have to deal with it. As time passes, the mining drills will shift along and it'll change where the conveyor belts are going anyway, probably. This is a much bigger deposit than the other one that we were using, so we're going to have it for a much longer time. Well, maybe not actually, because our consumption of iron will continue to increase, and it may well match the increase in the size of our production facilities. So anyway, I decide to fiddle about with the conveyor belts a bit to make them look neater. Sort of mess it up a bit because the underground belt is in the complete wrong place and looks silly. You have to maneuver past it to get into the outpost. But anyway, I set up a bunch of guns and filled them all up with ammo, 25 in each, to make sure that they last a nice long time. Also, it's really easy to fill them with 25 because you just take half of 100 stack and put it in, and then take half of it back out and put it in a different turret. And then we set up a couple more mining drills, and then we run off back home because that should be enough for now. I have a quick check of the other outposts to see if anything else has run out. And I also noticed that there is a new cluster of aliens up in the northwest, and I plan to go and deal with them, but at the moment I have no ammo on me at all, so I have to run over and grab it, and then I forget what I'm doing for a second, and then I run over and do something else, and then I'm wandering around thinking there was definitely something I had to do here, and then I forget and just get on with other stuff. And then the aliens attack, so I missed the opportunity, and then I remember why I'd come over, but now I'm working on something else. So what I did there was I noticed that the copper supply was overflowing for the circuit production there. So what I did was siphon half of it off to the main production line. Also, I'm looking around for copper supplies because we're clearly going to need to expand soon. We're now utilizing all of the copper deposits within our base, and so we're going to have to move out of it. And unfortunately, all the deposits, while being fairly large, are a fair distance away, as far away as our new iron outpost. But anyway, I realized that after siphoning off half of the supply for the circuits, there's now not enough getting to the circuits, so I mess about with it so that the supplies of the 2 different copper production lines that we have go into the same splitter and then get evenly distributed between them. So even though the circuit production isn't getting enough and the main production isn't getting enough, they're getting an equal amount of not enough, and so it balances out. So what we now do is we run over back to our iron mines because I've grabbed some effectivity modules, and because this new outpost that I've built is quite near to an alien base, I've decided it's quite urgent that we get some effectivity modules in it, so I filled them all up, so now the actual power consumption of this base is tiny. So then I wander over and have a look at these copper deposits just to see what sort of state they're in, how much we can get from them. And then I run off back home to get on with other things. Who knows what I got on with when I recorded this, like yesterday or whenever it was. And I noticed, well, I have a quick look at the iron supply and realised that this iron base from the south has finally run out. I think it was the first, well, the second place probably that we got iron from. I assume there was a place nearer, though I forget now. It's been a while. And now that that's gone, we can have the production from the other outposts filling up the entirety of the belt. I mean, we probably could have had it before, but I was lazy or something. And so we don't need to use the faster supply belts anymore. I noticed that the coal chests are getting filled up. As I said, you produce a lot more than you realise from these mines, and it's quite difficult to store it all. And I'm gonna have to go around corners with it I'm just gonna end up with like a 10 by 10 block of completely full steel chests of coal, or something ridiculous like that. Anyway, I run over and grab some more effectivity modules and fill everything up with them. And then I decide to do a check of all the walls. So I start running around, checking the supply of ammo in each of the guns. And there's still quite a few guns that have the original ammo in them. Well, I've made sure to put them in between guns that do have the ammo. The idea is I want it to get used up, because otherwise it's just going to sit in a chest forever, not being used. This particular corner's taken a good beating, as it usually does. And I carry on running down and checking everything. The thing is, the aliens keep attacking the same few spots, and so you don't actually need to do that much resupplying on a lot of the guns. It's just a couple of guns which need a lot of resupplying all the time, because that's where the aliens are attacking. I suppose it's a sound strategy, attacking the same place repeatedly. But it's a shame, because it means that the small ammo isn't getting used up very often. Anyway, I noticed that the plastic supply has got enough to fill up the belt, so I decided to set up a chest so that if we ever suddenly increase in plastic production, there'll be a bit of a buffer against it. And also it makes it easier for us to get some for our inventory, though we won't be doing it very often. I think the only use for plastic is for advanced circuits. I originally thought there was a lot more stuff, and then I realised that I was only piping it to advanced circuits, and the reason that it's used in so many items is because advanced circuits are. So anyway, I grabbed myself some new armour. Decided to do a little upgrade. I didn't upgrade as far as I could, because I could make modular armour, but I don't currently have the production lines for everything involved. So the reason I'm getting this new armour is that I'm decided to go alien hunting. So I run over to this base with 4 spawners and charge in. We get some signs, bullet damage, good timing. And then I try and pick something in the pick engines. And then I charge in and murder all these aliens and destroy all the bases, which I'm quite proud of, because it's a fairly big base, and it makes it gives me confidence that I might be able to deal with that like 8 spawner base or whatever it is up in the north that's quite near. Because if we get rid of that, then I think we'll be able to build a huge defensive wall spanning from one of the huge lakes to another of the huge lakes, and be able to protect ourselves from like even any alien bases being settled. You can see there we've got 2 huge lakes on either side of us, and we could easily put a wall across. The only thing is that the big alien base is inside where that wall would be. So anyway, I mess around with copper production a bit, accidentally causes a minor blackout in that area, and I realise that this stone chest here is going to have to move, so I set up some inserters to get it out of the way, and eventually I'll probably have to get it out of the way again when we I just kicked a thing. You heard it, didn't you? Last time I did that, and I hope no one had heard it, and then I listened back and it was very clearly heard. So whenever I kick anything or make any noise here, you can hear it extremely clearly, which is annoying, this crappy microphone. But anyway, I realised that the effectivity module production has just gone mental, and suddenly we have tons of it, so I start running around putting them in everything. And by the time I'm done, it's like we pretty much got it in all the stuff. But anyway, we're pretty much coming to the end now. The last thing I do is set up one more chemical plant for turning light oil into petroleum gas. You'll see that in a second. And then as soon as that's done, that will be the end of the episode. And next time we will be continuing to try and deal with our shortages of iron and copper. At the moment, copper is the big priority. I'll probably be setting up a big outpost in the next episode. We might even involve trains. So anyway, until then, that shall be another day, and until then I shall... I forgot what I say. Goodbye. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching in a different order, an order that makes more sense. Goodbye.